There's a few things that everyone knows human beings can't live without. Water, air, a nice smile. But there's actually something that's often overlooked that's a necessity for life on this planet. And it's an ad blocker when using the World Wide Web. I am constantly reminded of this cold hard truth anytime on stream that I try and read about an event or something and I go to a godforsaken news publication that won't allow you to read the article without turning your ad block off. And eventually, after putting up a big stink, I just give in to the dark side, turn off the ad blocks, that way I can get the information about whatever I was trying to research and learn about. And 100% of the time, without fail, it's just a massive headache, just this visual nuisance, all this clutter with an inundation of ads that seems like it's some kind of scene from a 90s movie where you get hacked. Where it just has like, virus detected, go here for good porn, your doctor doesn't want you to see this, that kind of shit, just popping up all over the place. That is the modern landscape of the cyberspace without an ad block, unironically. There's banner ads, autoplaying ads in the bottom right of every news journalist site, ads on the side, ads in the middle of articles, ads everywhere. But what I didn't know until today is that if you try and watch a video on some of these mainstream media sites, you get an ad every 2 or 3 seconds. And I'm not exaggerating. And when I say you get an ad every 2 to 3 seconds, I don't mean you get like a banner ad. I mean you get like a full 20 to 30 second video ad that pauses your video to play that ad. So a 2-minute video that I was trying to watch about a bobblehead heist ended up taking over 10 minutes, and I still didn't even finish the video because there were that many ads. I was still only a little over halfway through it. It is absurd. It's unusable trying to navigate through the internet without an ad block. It is crucial. I would argue it's like a basic human right at this point to have an ad blocker when using the internet. It is that fucking atrocious. Just check this out. Did you hear about the Pittsburgh Penguins bobblehead heist that just happened? Someone earlier came in here like there was some on-the-ground, boots-on-the-ground reporter going over that saying, Charles, something huge just happened in Pittsburgh. Is that what it is? There was a bobblehead heist? I thought they had like burned down like the entire like Pittsburgh facility for the Steelers or something. So they stole bobbleheads? Are bobbleheads like easily resellable? Do you make a lot from stealing bobbleheads?
Because said bobbleheads have been stolen in a...
Oh! Not the ad. Good heavens, why?
And it got me thinking, you know, who's having the worst seat?
Thanks the membership, Tamago.
Ready?
Oh my, you can't be serious. The back-to-back? Heavens to Betsy. The memorabilia were meant to be handed out to fans in celebration of 52-year-old who played with the Penguins from 1990 to 2001.
This year. And you could certainly nominate the Pittsburgh Penguins for that. Kyle Dubas, their general manager, and some people around that team for some reason thought...
Oh my good, what is... Who? Oh, is this what purgatory's like? Is it... What is this? You get 3 seconds of a video and then 25, 30 seconds of an ad? Is this the future? Holy shit.
That this team
that's got to be it, right?
Close to contending for a Stanley Cup, or could contend for a Stanley Cup. They went out, they got Eric Carlson, they got Riley Smith, they got a bunch of veteran guys. Things have gone sideways.
Oh my god! What is... No way! This website needs to be banned. ASAP. Whoever owns this site needs to be thrown in jail. What?
Things have gone south. And you could certainly argue right now that there's not...
His membership, one guy. Oh! I have to watch the whole video like this. I have to know. How deep does this go? This can't be legal, right? This can't be. There's no fucking way. How do you even use the internet without an ad block? You can't even watch this.
Ahora obtén 2,500 de descuento de bono total en la Chrysler Pacifica 2020.
Have you ever watched cable TV? There's no way it's this bad.
Team in the NHL that is further away from winning a Stanley Cup, or at least contending for a Stanley Cup, than the Pittsburgh Penguins are right now. That's a
okay. That might be the end of it. He's got 2 sentences out this time.
You know, you get to thinking, and I think there's some teams in the NHL that are saying, hey,
I think it's smooth sailing. No way! How? Wait, how do you get it? Isn't there like laws in place to prevent this? I'm pretty sure there's laws in place for this, right? I'm about to fucking report them to the Better Business Bureau, even though they don't do anything.
Hold my beer. How about the San Jose Sharks? On pace for a goals differential of minus 148. That would be the worst since the glory days of the Ottawa Senators in 93-94.
Oh, that was a jump scare. They fooled me with that one. Thought it was coming. Oh, there it is. Nope.
Season really well and looked like they had something really special going, and then became.
I think we made it through the storm.
And fell off the map, and they're playing in a college arena.
Okay, there it is. That's the one. They teased us with a little foreplay there. This is what I come for, the ads. And then the guy in between who's just talking about some hockey stats, I guess. Man's able to get 3 words out. Hold my beer. Bang. Sisyphus-type video. Pretty much, actually. Yeah. What an absolutely unusable site. That is incredible. That is absolutely incredible. So who stole these bobbleheads? Oh, here we go. Immediately, amused hockey fans pointed a collective finger at one suspected culprit, zeroing in on the Philadelphia Flyers' 7-foot-tall, irreverent, and slightly unsettling mascot, Gritty. Jesus Christ, wait, their mascot is Gritty? That's fire. I don't think I've ever seen their mascot, nor did I know his name was Gritty. How much money do you think they make every time someone watches the entire video? I don't think anyone can watch the entire video. This video is only 2 minutes long, and there's still 53 seconds left, and it's been like 10 minutes because there's so many ads. I think most people will have probably already clicked off or have died of old age. But with the amount of ads so far, I think that's like ad number 13 or 14, they probably make like $2. Like, it's just not worth it. That's nuts. I've never seen one this bad, ever. This video just started playing and immediately went to an ad. There's no way this is commonplace. Using the internet without an ad block is absolutely awful.
Of starting a fatal house fire in Green Valley Ranch.
Oh, that is not the ejaculation story. That's far different. Fort Collins police services said the investigation began in July. Immediately to an ad. Maybe this is the norm. Is this the norm? I put in that second clip there just so you can see that I was experiencing the same thing on a different website. You only get like this short burst of what you're there for, like the video component that is, before it's interrupted by ads, it seems. I thought it might have been just exclusive to that first site I was on, but then it happened on this website too. So I'm guessing it's more common than I think. And there's not many people out there in the modern day and age that use the internet without an ad block, luckily. But now there's like this war on ad block that YouTube's kind of spearheading, and this is what it looks like without it. So you should be able to recognize why it's such a big deal that ad blocks are here and why they need to stay. So any kind of attempts to get rid of them, I think, is just a detriment to the overall landscape of the internet, honestly. After seeing this today, it is in a state that's unforgivable. You can't even watch a video from these publications without an ad popping up every couple of seconds. So you don't even get... The content is the ad at that point, and the break is the news story. Like, it's so fucking flipped and weird. And I just had to talk about this because I was baffled at the frequency of ads on journalist sites like this. That's crazy. That's about it. See ya. For 14 years, I've been mispronouncing the name of one of the internet's most popular services. All the way back in high school, I was calling it Omegle, and only today am I realizing that it's actually pronounced Omegle. So, I learned the proper pronunciation just in time to say goodbye to it, because after operating for 14 years, Omegle is getting shut down. They're taking it out behind the barn, God rest its soul. And it's leaving behind a weird legacy. I don't care who you are or what your history is in the cyberspace, the fact that you're on the World Wide Web right now tells me that you've at least heard of Omegle, because it was an absolute juggernaut when it comes to internet culture. So many YouTubers had their start from trolling on Omegle. Some YouTubers, even up until yesterday before the announcement, were still making their bread and butter content on Omegle. It was a service that was used by so many people so frequently. Basically what it was a service that would match you with a total stranger and you two could video chat together, or text chat with each other. I personally never really used it outside of one time for a video I made a decade ago. I didn't use the video chat functionality because I wasn't trying to get traumatized. Even back then, a decade ago, Omegle had the reputation of, if you go on the video chat, you're just going to see some penis. Like, everyone was going to be flopping their meat out of nowhere like a jump scare. It was never a matter of if you run into a creepy degenerate, it was only a matter of when. It was kind of an inevitability. If you're video chatting with strangers on Omegle, you were bound to run into someone on the sex offenders registry face to face, and it's something the platform faced heavy scrutiny for since the very beginning. And if you've seen the response from people with the announcement that it's shutting down, you're probably seeing a lot of the same things. Pedophiles just fell to their knees across the globe. This is the worst news sexual predators have seen since Reddit banned jailbait. Things of that nature. And it's something that the creator also recognizes, and it is something that clearly did play a role in the demise of Omegle. So I want to go through the situation here of what led to it being shut down. If you go on the site right now, you will see a very long message from the creator of Omegle. His name is Leaf Brooks, and he tells the story of the genesis of the platform, the motivation behind making it, what it was like to run it, and a lot of the problems that he faced and what actually led to the current situation where it's being taken down. Now, to try and sum up why he created Omegle, basically he wanted it to be a way of connecting people with each other. From the comfort of their own home, maybe make a meaningful connection. He said if the internet's like a global village, then he wanted Omegle to be the way of strolling down the street and meeting people, fundamentally. So it was meant to be a tool where you could just strike up conversations with random people that you get connected with through Omegle. He then goes over some of the problems that arose from this platform. He said, unfortunately, there are also lowlights. Virtually every tool can be used for good or for evil, and that is especially true of communication tools due to their innate flexibility. The telephone can be used to wish your grandmother happy birthday, but it can also be used to call in a bomb threat. There can be no honest accounting of Omegle without acknowledging that some people misused it, including to commit unspeakably heinous crimes. He then talks about some of the moderation tools they offered, including state-of-the-art AI to combat it, and then says that the anonymity behind the tool, it helped create a layer of separation from, bad actors and victims, and basically says that he's proud of what they were able to achieve with their moderation. He then talks about a positive impact that it had on the site, claiming that Omegle worked with law enforcement agencies and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children to help put evildoers in prison where they belong. There are people rotting behind bars right now, thanks in part to evidence that Omegle proactively collected against them and tipped the authorities off too. But then says, all that said, the fight against crime isn't one that can be truly won. It's a never-ending battle that must be fought and refought every day, and even if you do the very best job it is possible for you to do, you may make a sizable dent, but you won't win in any absolute sense of the word. So he is talking about how he believes they did as much as they possibly could to combat some of the evil people using their platform for horrible reasons. And now we get into the meat and potatoes of why Omegle's in its current state. He believes that it's because society is placing unrealistic expectations of him and the service to prevent crime entirely on there. He says it can be inferred from their act of setting standards that are not humanly achievable. Omegle is the direct target of these attacks. Their ultimate victim is you. When they say Omegle shouldn't exist, they are really saying that you shouldn't be allowed to use it, that you shouldn't be allowed to meet random new people online. That idea is an anathema to the ideals I cherish, specifically to the bedrock principle of a free society that, when restrictions are imposed to prevent crime, the burden of those restrictions must not be targeted at innocent victims or potential victims of crime. So to kind of break it down, he talks about how, because there has been a history of misuse, people want Omegle to do more to stop it, to the point that he believes it's not possible. And ultimately, he concludes by saying that it's no longer financially or psychologically sustainable to keep Omegle going, and that they've lost this fight. To put in perspective where he's coming from, they recently just concluded a lawsuit where they were accused of pairing an 11-year-old with a sexual predator. And this is far from the only example of this kind of thing happening on the site. It has been an issue they've dealt with since the very beginning, since the fucking dinosaurs were walking around on Omegle. And according to the firm representing the girl in that 2021 lawsuit which just finished, she is claiming that the shutdown here is a result of the mediation from this case. I find this situation extremely interesting, actually. He's not wrong. There is a lot of legislation that does try and get passed under the guise of protecting the interests of the public with things like SOPA or COPPA, if you remember that. And in doing that and proposing these things, it takes away a lot of people's freedoms when it comes to like the internet in general. I'm sure most of you remember those, and now it's become so frequent, like once a year they're trying to pass bills like that now, and it's like the fucking box ghost from Danny Phantom poking its goofy little head out once a year. Just this menace that the internet has to collectively come out and spit on and tell him, scram, get out of here. But anyway, he's also not wrong in the fact that this isn't a problem that's exclusive to Omegle. This is something all social media or communications tools face. Evil people misusing it. Twitter has entire communities of pedophiles that openly operate in broad daylight. YouTube had entire rabbit holes of sexual predators that would go out of their way to find potential victims on the site. However, what he doesn't recognize is Omegle is still different than both of these. Omegle is the only one that would directly connect a child with a predator. Now, of course, it wasn't doing it on purpose maliciously. I don't think there was anything embedded in the code, the algorithm, to connect children with sex offenders, but because it would randomly connect strangers, this kind of thing happened a lot. And that is a problem that's exclusive to Omegle. You won't find that anywhere else, like on Twitter. Oh, hey, Junior, howdy. What's going on, sport? Look, we noticed you were following Roblox. Well, why don't you follow this guy? His name's Jeffrey Dahmer. He's a bit of an interesting fellow. You guys might have some things in common. Why don't we connect you two and, you know, put you in contact? Maybe you guys really hit it off or something. Like, that's not something that happens anywhere besides on Omegle. To go off of his example where he said a phone can be used to call your grandmother to tell her happy birthday, but it can also be used to call in a bomb threat, let's dive a little deeper in there. If Omegle is a phone, it is a phone that is programmed to either call Mr. Rogers or the boogeyman, and you have no way of knowing who's going to be dialed. It's just an inherently more dangerous tool no matter how you spin it. Now, I do fully agree that a lot of the responsibility on what children do online falls on their parents, and the absence of parents in these days, where they just don't monitor what their kids do online. Parents are taking a much more passive role in the raising of their kids and just leaving it on the internet to do it. They put the onus of raising their children on the fucking internet, and it's tragic. But at the very core here, to the meatballs in this spaghetti, there is a problem if your tool keeps putting kids with sexual predators or keeps getting used for child pornography related crimes. There is an issue there, and there's nothing wrong with pointing that out and hoping that there's more you can do. This doesn't really seem like a situation where like the government's stepping in to censor them or anything and take away freedoms. It's victims coming forward to point out a very clear problem with the service if kids keep getting preyed upon there. Now, of course, I do agree that you can't stop every criminal on every platform all the time, but you can at least take steps to mitigate that to the best of your ability. Like, I think step one should have been preventing children from even accessing Omegle in the first place. This should have been an adult-only site from the start. Now, maybe it's supposed to be and kids circumvent that somehow. I'm not entirely sure because, again, I'm pretty unfamiliar with the site. But when I look it up, it says that it's 18 unsupervised, but 13 with parental permission. Like, this isn't Neopets. Like, 13-year-olds shouldn't be able to get parental permission to use your site that is being used by very sketchy, evil adults, too, right? Like, it's not... this isn't an attack on, you know, freedom here. This is an attack specifically on Omegle having a clear flaw that keeps having children be victims of sexual predators. But there is another thing I do agree with him on that has nothing to do with that. At the end of his statement, he mentions this, that he believes that the way the internet is trending is kind of following a souped-up TV model that focuses primarily on passive consumption. And he is on the money with that. It's something I've talked about too. The way the internet's going is that it wants to shove as much content in your face as frequently as possible, and it's all algorithmically driven to keep you hooked on that platform, to just keep you glued there through basically just junk food, empty calorie content. That's across the board: YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all of it. All of it wants to just keep you mindlessly scrolling, TikTok being the biggest example. And especially since everyone's attention span is so fucking rotted and cooked, things like Subway surfers being glued on the bottom of every video with soap cutting in the top right because no one can focus anymore. All of it seems to be trending towards just have people be mindless zombies just consuming content endlessly. But yeah, anyway, I'm getting sidetracked now. Overall, I do understand why Omegle would be getting shut down. It is still a pretty interesting thing to see actually happen since it's been operating for 14 years. I didn't expect this. I don't think anyone really did. So, I mean, yeah, that's really about it. So, yep. If history's taught us one thing, it's that gamers are the pride and joy of the human race. I feel like the only reason the Lord ever even made humans to begin with was so that we would eventually evolve to a point where we can finally reach our ultimate metamorphosis and become the turbo gamers we were destined to be. And my friends, it's with a smile on my face and butterflies in my tummy that I proudly announce that we are entering the golden age of gaming. We have arrived. Gamers can't stop winning. We eat good, fuck good, feel good, and when someone stands in our way, we say, "Listen, Buster, you noob, get out of town or I'm gonna have to level up on your ass." And that's exactly what just happened in court, basically, with the FTC. The FTC got the latest smackdown from gamers when they tried to block Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Those fools at the FTC, those bumbling, imbecile, homunculus morons, thought that they could walk all over our God-given right to game. Hard. And now, they're learning a tough lesson. Don't tussle with the virtual muscle, or you're gonna end up looking silly. The cyberspace is a circus, and now you're the clowns. Now, for those of you who have no fucking idea what I'm talking about, I'll briefly explain. Microsoft made an offer to buy Activision Blizzard for $69 billion. An offer Activision Blizzard couldn't resist. Like Mr. Krabs with the dollar signs in their eyes, they were pretty on board with the idea, so they began moving forward with the conversations, because $69 billion, that's a lot of doubloons. That's enough clams to make you slap your own mother. So they were going forward, going through with the process, but encountered quite a few obstacles along the way, the biggest one being the Federal Trade Commission blocking the acquisition. They were arguing that if Microsoft was to acquire all of the properties under Activision Blizzard, they would then have the means and motivation to harm competition and be very anti-competitive because they could basically take something like Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox. This was a big talking point actually, Call of Duty in particular, but Activision Blizzard has major heavy hitters in the video game space, and they were arguing that under Microsoft's control, they wouldn't really have incentive to release a quality product on rival consoles like Sony's PlayStation. So they were a bit concerned about, this being anti-competitive and maybe potentially even forming a monopoly down the line, so they motioned to block this acquisition. And this has been an ongoing battle for the last few months, and Microsoft's been making a lot of arguments about why it'd actually be the contrary. Should Microsoft get Activision Blizzard, they would actually enable more access to the properties, taking Call of Duty to a platform like even the Nintendo Switch. For all 6 people that would be delusional enough to buy a Call of Duty game on the Switch, because that'd be running at 5 FPS. That fucking console can barely even handle mobile games. But there would be more access to it, according to Microsoft. And before the Switch gamers start fucking steaming out of their ears and slapping on the keyboard, I like the Switch. It's just a really embarrassing joke of hardware that can't really handle third-party modern games super well. Like Apex Legends on the Switch had to be the biggest joke the video game industry ever tried to pull. Nintendo Switch is good for just basically their first-party exclusives, so it is cool if Call of Duty does go to the Switch like this. That's great. More access is always a good thing. But that would be the worst way of playing this game, I imagine. Unless they release the Switch 2.0. But regardless, Microsoft was arguing that if they do get Activision Blizzard, this would only actually help give people more means of playing these games on consoles. They wouldn't take anything away from rival consoles. And they've been making these arguments for quite a while now. And it seems to have worked because today the judge ruled in favor of Microsoft. So they chose all of the correct dialogue options in order to get the Microsoft good, true ending, I suppose. According to the judge in this case, they stated that this court's responsibility in this case is narrow. It is to decide if, notwithstanding these current circumstances, the merger should be halted, perhaps even terminated, pending the resolution of the FTC administrative action. For the reasons explained, the court finds the FTC has not shown a likelihood that it will prevail on its claims this particular vertical merger in the specific industry may substantially lessen competition. To the contrary, the record evidence points to more consumer access to Call of Duty and other Activision content. The motion for a preliminary injunction is therefore denied. Fucking caps lock denied there. That's like some shit out of League of Legends. Judge was getting a bit toxic there, fucking locking that one down in caps. So the judge gave the thumbs down in the Coliseum here to the Federal Trade Commission's block on this Activision Blizzard play from Microsoft. They even just wiped their ass with an analysis from a Harvard economics professor who was arguing that they would have financial incentive to make Call of Duty an Xbox exclusive. And they said that this failed to take into account plans for the franchise to remain on PC, come to Switch, and be accessible through cloud gaming. Before the merger, a consumer wanting to play a Call of Duty console game had to buy a PlayStation or an Xbox. After the merger, consumers can utilize the cloud to play on the device of choice, including, it is intended, on the Nintendo Switch. Perhaps bad for Sony, but good for Call of Duty gamers and future gamers. I think they're actually right on the money with this one here. Before all of this hoopla here, if you wanted Call of Duty on the console, it was either Xbox or PlayStation. So I do understand the rationale behind if the Xbox manufacturer gets a hold of Call of Duty, if they grab the scrotum of Call of Duty, why would they even bother to continue putting it on Sony's PlayStation? You know, that's their competition. Like, I get where the thought process is coming from, but they fail to take into account that Microsoft itself already allows its exclusives to go to rival platforms, the PC. Microsoft itself, there's no such thing as a real Xbox exclusive anymore because all of their Xbox exclusives go to PC at the same time pretty much. So they kind of already shown that they're okay letting their biggest titles go to other platforms. So I don't see why they'd think that it would be different here if they controlled the IP. Like, they would still benefit from it going to PlayStation, and they'd benefit from allowing even more access, like going to the Switch. And they've already allowed all of their exclusives right now to not be locked down to the Xbox because they already go to PC too. So I do think under Microsoft there is going to be more access to things like Call of Duty. This was a huge talking point in this case because Call of Duty is such a fucking power franchise. And I do think that they're correct that under Microsoft, I don't see it being exclusive to Xbox or anything. It'll probably just be more accessible. Sony, on the other hand, has shown many times in its past that it wants to have its cake and eat it too. It wants to be like your only option. I've already gone over this in previous videos, but there have been times in the past where Sony has legitimately tried to do anti-competitive practices because they have a very strong market share in the video gaming space. And they don't budge on fucking anything mostly. And I think Sony recognized this, which is why they'd be looking out for their own selfish interests to continue to have that stranglehold on the market share. They realize that under Microsoft, Activision Blizzard properties being more accessible hurts their position because now you no longer just have the choice of Xbox and PlayStation. Now Nintendo Switch could enter the conversation, cloud gaming where you could play on other devices as well. So Sony, I think, really only cares about itself, not like the good of the gaming space. So I overall do think it's a good thing here. I'm not exactly a Microsoft fan. I think pretty much every studio they touch turns to shit. And I really think the Xbox has nothing on it at all. It's just kind of a fucking brick. I have not got my Xbox out of this drawer in front of me in over a year and a half. And the only reason I brought it out a year and a half ago was to replay an old Xbox 360 game called Bayonetta. Love Bayonetta, by the way. So there's just, I think the Xbox Series X and all that is a fucking flop right now. Phil Spencer recognizes that. He even had that statement not long ago about how they've completely lost the video game industry race right now. But I'm still optimistic for the future. Like, with this deal going through, should it go through, again, it's not a done deal, I do think having more access to titles is a good thing. So I'm always for that. Though I'm not super optimistic about the quality of titles coming forward because, like I said, Microsoft has like the fucking cheese touch here. They curse everything under their umbrella in the video game space, and every studio kind of goes tits up. Now, like I said, it's not a done deal. There still is another big block right now, and this one comes from the Competition and Markets Authority. This is in the UK. So the CMA also blocked the deal in April, argued that it would hamper growth in cloud gaming. But it seems like this is starting to weaken a little bit, like they're starting to be more open to proposals from Microsoft. So it feels like that's only a matter of time before that's no longer an obstacle for this acquisition. But yeah, anyway, just wanted to give you this update because this is a very big deal in gaming. This is by far the biggest fucking deal like ever done in gaming. Probably just one of like the biggest purchases in general. A $69 billion buy here is fucking massive. And Activision Blizzard has some huge properties, so there is a lot of potential ramifications for the future of gaming. Could be good. I imagine it probably will be good, but it also could be bad. There's really no telling right now. So I just wanted to give you a little update on everything that's been going on here, and yeah, that's about it. So yeah. Let's go over the Stadia's failure. I'm sure Ackman's going to do a really thorough dive on it. This is just such a victory lap for me. I still remember the second this got announced and like their first trailer, I was outspoken about how silly it is. I didn't believe it was a good idea. And I was firm in my stance that I didn't think it would succeed. And I had so many fucking doubters, especially in chat, that were like, no, Charlie, this is actually the future. You're just too, reptile brain to see the potential of the Stadia. This is how gaming's going to be from now on. I can't wait to get my Stadia. I've already pre-ordered. And I called you a fucking idiot. And now look at it. It's already dead. It was a complete waste. Like an absolute crash and burn project. Another Google stinker right into the trash bin. Just like Google Plus. And the million other products Google has tried to launch. Now maybe there's still some merit to the idea itself, but the Stadia was never going to be the one to execute it well. It never stood a chance.
After just 3 short years, Google has announced that they are pulling the plug on Stadia, canceling all future support for
cloud gaming. Why?
18th. Like watching a kid stick a fork in the electrical outlet, we all saw this coming. Breaking into the console or a team, it represents thousands of people who are working on this business. Thousands of people no longer working on this business. And that's just
if they ever were to begin with. I don't really think this is like a good argument for the sake of it sticking around either, to be honest. This doesn't really address the question super well. It's just like, we put a lot of money into it and we have a big team. Of course it's going to succeed down the line. Like, the answer I would look for is, how are you going to ensure that it stays in the market, like, and is competitive? Not like, but we already poured so much money into it, so of course it's going to stick around. You know what I mean? It just it's such a non-answer.
But it's backed by Google, so they've got a pretty good chance. I say it all the time, first impressions are so important in gaming. I have
such a bad,
little patience for
such
things
a bad
that
first
suck
impression.
and don't work. This is how.
Does anyone remember the old Stadia commercials they used to run during, I think it was E3 2019? They'd made like a big push in, I really think it was E3. They were like floating around through like space and time or something after going through a kid's room. Oh my god, it was so embarrassing. Jesus Christ.
I have no regrets. The first impression didn't stick the landing, and I was never given a reason after this to ever pick up a Stadia or try it.
Do you remember, I think it was a year after launch, they still only had, was it sub 10 games on their service? I wonder if I can still find the old articles. I think it was like a full year and they only had like 5 or 6 games on the entirety of Stadia. And they were all full priced. Let me get the exact number. Let me pull up an old article. Google Stadia only has one exclusive game, which is Tequila Works' Guilt, which was a system launch. And there's no word yet on what exclusives could be. And then they speculate that Typhoon Studios might have one, which I don't think they ever did. But yeah, as of January 16th, there was one exclusive on the game. As of February 19th of this year, they have 200 games. 286 games as of February of this year. The service launched with 22 games and added 4 more in December of 2019. By the end of 2020, the service had 130. Okay, thank you.
Google Stadia is not a video game console.
It's a controller.
It was software, not hardware. Yeah. And I only just
get a controller
realized
for
that
the cloud gaming
after it was canceled. That's how poorly the marketing got the message across. That's how nobody talked about it. I mean, this was supposed to be a massive new competitor to Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo.
And it was so
Steam,
close,
Epic
goddammit.
Battle.net. And I don't even know what was
It's on
special
the cusp
or
of
unique
greatness.
about it. if you actually go
I'm sure he's going to show it, but I'll tell you right now, I'll rip the Band-Aid off. I also thought the Stadia was a console for like the first 2 years. It wasn't until we were doing an episode of the podcast where we were joking about it that we learned the Google Stadia was never a console. It's a controller. And it's a controller that like gives you access to the Stadia Cloudflare gaming. So you never even got like a console. You got a controller. It's basically, yeah, like he said, it's basically a software. And I think you could access the software without the controller. I don't think that was necessary, but if you purchase like a Stadia, I suppose, you get a controller.
These are all games that are think they're running through these very quickly right now. The
damn, that's a sick controller
with their platform with Stadia.
Looks like the Ouya.
Controller. Like I legitimately think they're gonna be XY, and around the back here.
Yeah, it's just a pretty standard controller. I wouldn't say it's a sick controller, but it's a functional one. Like this is just the tried and true vanilla controller design. Nothing crazy about it. Not reinventing the wheel. But it's fine, it seems.
Been the absurd gaming platform on Earth.
Yes, this is the one.
I mean, it supported 4K resolution and 60 FPS with HDR. They had a premium subscription service, kind of like Xbox's Games with Gold, where you'd get free monthly games, and once you got them, you...
What's crazy is this 50 games instantly is their whole catalog. They launched with 22 games. So they're already promised... Well, I don't know when this was, but they're promising more games than their service currently had. And they finished with 286 titles, which is actually less than the Nintendo 64 had. I think among all consoles, it is the lowest amount of games total, at least of consoles I can think of. Even the Sega Genesis, I think, had more. And that was a console that was dead on arrival because they surprise announced it at E3 and said, go buy it right now. It's in stores. Let's see. That's considered one of the biggest console flops of all time, and Sega Genesis had... Or, was it the Sega Saturn? I don't know, I'll check both. But Sega Genesis had 800, and let's see the Sega Saturn. The Sega Saturn had... 1,046. So it was definitely the Genesis I was thinking of. And I was wrong, Sega Genesis still had more titles than Nintendo 64. Nintendo 64 had 380 something, I think. How many did the Ouya have before it died? Let's see. Did it beat the Ouya at least? Oh, fuck me. Before the Ouya's untimely demise, it had 1,250 games. As of June 2019. Jesus. Yeah, I guess it just ported all the mobile games, so it's kind of cheating. Let's see how many exclusives Ouya had, because the Stadia finished with, I think the article said 10. So how many exclusives did Ouya have? Oh shit, it beat the Ouya. Oh wait, no, that's 2014. Damn, that's like the most current article on it too. As of 2014, the Ouya had 6 exclusives. Stadia had 10.
Fuck Nintendo is doing with Switch Online.
No. Ouya didn't... I mean, no one played Ouya, mind you. Ouya was completely a joke, a huge meme. I had an Ouya and I used it as an ice tray at one point. Like, it was a complete worthless piece of shit. What is the Ouya? It was... What do you mean, what is the Ouya? How the fuck is there anyone out there that doesn't remember the Ouya? This was the most popular Kickstarter for a long time. They hyped this up as like, console for gamers, by gamers. It's going to have every game you've ever wanted on it. It's also going to be coming at the highest possible graphical resolution. It's also just going to be one of the best gaming experiences you'll ever have in your life. Just like filled with a bunch of buzzwords and everything. This is probably just clickbait. But it was just filled with tons and tons and tons of buzzwords, but it just ended up being mobile game ports and shovelware. Yeah, like I said, I had an Ouya. I used it as an ice tray. I tried it, but it had no use, so I used it as an ice tray. Like, what the fuck else was I supposed to do with it?
Own product, I can say, hey, go follow me on Instagram. That doesn't cost me anything. It just seemed like Google started this thing, noticed that it wasn't gaining traction immediately, and then like was slowly
Is Destiny 2 on Stadia?
Until just now when they finally yanked that last little bit out. Google also
I kind of want to try Destiny 2 on
they
Stadia.
shut down some of the game development they were doing.
What a disaster.
Their idea was to shift to more
Some Destiny players had a Stadia just to play ranked because it was against much easier players. Oh, that's so smart. That is so fucking smart. Oh, you just play against Stadia gamers? Fuck me.
Especially if it doesn't offer any obvious benefits. Like, bro, apparently Hideo Kojima was working on a new Death Stranding exclusively for Stadia, and Google canceled that? Like, how?
They must have watched my moist meter.
It's Hideo Kojima. Google had created... You're out of here. On a positive note, though, Google will be refunding anyone who bought games on Stadia.
Yeah.
And that's the most pro-consumer thing they can do out of this. Obviously, they're not going to, like, refund, you know, this service that you paid for. It's a service, right?
We literally signed the publishing agreement with Stadia last week, so I would assume the internal teams there, who are lovely, are likely finding this out at the same time we are, since I had a super energetic meeting with them last week about us joining. Eek. Ooh. Big stinkerooski on that one.
Peace.
Nice. Rest in peace, Stadia. Whoops. Just another big I told you so moment there, gamers. I told you that shit was destined for failure. Oh, I knew it. But I mean, it's not just me. Pretty much everyone said that was probably trash. There was just some people that really bought into it. It really wasn't just me. That was like the coldest take of all time. It was awful from the get-go. Thanks to Resub West in JB. I just always hold these like one guy grudges, or like one guy's like super passionate about something, but I know he's wrong. It's just like, oh, I can't wait. I just can't wait until it's like definitively proven. Like this. Just like Anthem, by the way. I will always wave that around. I said with Jackson during the Anthem beta, this game is absolute abhorrent trash and it's terrible. And we got eaten alive on the Anthem subreddit. They're like, these fucking assholes don't understand that it's a beta. They don't get it. All of this is going to be fixed when the game releases next month. All of their complaints are going to be looked back on so stupidly to think that they wouldn't be addressed by launch. And you know what happened? None of them got fixed because the beta was out a month before the fucking game was. They had no time to fix it. Delusion. And then they never even apologized to us on the subreddit. They just silently agreed with us and then made posts whining about how bad the game was. Anthem trailers and pre-release media made it seem like it was the next best game, new Destiny, and then it flopped harder than any other game. Yeah. It had a lot of potential. It really did. But the beta, it became very clear that it was a pile of trash, steaming dog shit. Fortnite is a game that needs no introduction. Fortnite is perhaps one of humanity's greatest achievements. Even the Mayan calendar was often misinterpreted to predict the end of the world in 2012, but what it was actually predicting was the E3 trailer for Fortnite's announcement. Even the Mayans knew the importance Fortnite would have in the future, and not even they could have predicted just how powerful Fortnite would become. And I'm sure you've already heard the devastating news that can make the world stop rotating. Fortnite has been banned from the App Store and the Google Play Store, but no one really gives a fuck about that. I know this is a very difficult time for many of us out there, but to all the therapists out there, it's about to be a great fucking time for all the overtime pay they're about to get consoling these screeching and screaming children who now can't play Fortnite on their iOS device. Now, in light of Fortnite being banned on the App Store and Google Play Store, I'd like to come forward with an announcement as well and say that I too will be banning Fortnite from any future app distribution services I may launch. Not that I'm planning on launching any, I'm a fucking Neanderthal when it comes to technology, but should I ever create an app store of my own, Fortnite will be banned from it. Not for any reason other than it just sounds kind of fun right now, just to follow the trend. So now let's dive deeper into this massive issue that's got the world by the nutsack and has made the sun stop shining. Why is Fortnite banned from the App Store? Well, it's because Epic Games introduced a new way of buying V-Bucks that bypassed Apple's 30% cut through the App Store. This was a violation of Apple's terms in the App Store, so it was naturally banned. Now, obviously, Epic knew this was coming because they had a whole marketing campaign launched behind it. They had an entire little machinima skit ready, which I'll share with you now.
Today, we celebrate the anniversary of the platform unification directives. For years, we have taken our tribute, and now for those, we shall prevail.
This is like something out of Judgment Day when the humans were rising up to stop Skynet. This is very powerful stuff. Are there tears in your eyes yet? Epic Games has defied the App Store monopoly. In retaliation, Apple is blocking Fortnite from 1 billion devices. Join the fight to stop 2020 from becoming 1984, and then they add hashtag free Fortnite. There's actually a parody on one of Apple's older commercials where they use something very similar, talking about the fear of 1984 and monopolistic technology shit. Epic Games is doing the same thing, and people are taking sides. The war has begun. You have Apple fanatics, you have Fortnite fanatics, and both of them waging war on each other right now. I think there's nothing more pathetic than being some kind of brain-dead loyal zombie to a multi-billion-dollar corporation that actively looks for ways to squeeze every penny out of your mama's wallet. But to each their own. I mean, everyone's going to have their own favorite sport. If you want to just mindlessly cheer for a mega corporation against a mega corporation, go for it. Now, if someone put their ass to my face and threatened to fart in it if I didn't pick a side, I'd probably choose Epic in this debate here. Just because I really just fucking hate Apple. Apple can suck the dirtiest part of my butthole. Apple does a lot of terrible things, a lot of terrible practices, and to be honest, a 30% cut of purchases through the App Store is way too high. I understand that's kind of like an industry norm, but that doesn't mean it's right. 30% is just significantly higher than I think it should be. So I'd side with Epic Games here, even though Epic Games has a lot of terrible shit they do on their own. And this whole thing here is very clearly just a marketing ploy from Epic to rally against Apple, hopefully get a little more money out of it. It's just a big money play, because it's always a money play with mega corporations. There's nothing noble about this fight, but that doesn't mean that it can't actually be a beneficial thing for a lot of smaller developers, because let's say if somehow Epic does squeak this out from their ass cheeks here and they do get the percentage lower from 30% to something more like 20 or 15%, that's really good for a lot of smaller developers that get suffocated by that extremely high percentage. It's just, I don't really see that happening. It's pretty cut and dry. Epic agreed to the terms and service of Apple and then actively took a shit on it. They said, yeah, we agree to these terms, and then just fucking slapped them around and did the exact opposite behind their back. I don't really see them realistically winning this case. I don't think a judge would look at that and be like, huh, well, Epic wins. Unless, of course, Epic was offering him free Fortnite skins or a level 100 battle pass or something. I just don't see that happening. But if it did, it really would be good for a lot of the smaller developers. I don't really give a fuck about Epic Games' benefit from this because they're already a multi-billion-dollar company that is printing money every second. Or even better for everyone, if Epic is somehow able to pull off this miracle on ice and actually get Apple to just relinquish its monopoly on distribution on iOS devices and make it so there could be third-party app distributors on their platforms, that would be absolutely massive, where you don't have to use the App Store if there's another service that's offering something better on the iOS. For example, Steam and Epic Game Store. Both do the same thing, but you're going to use each one for a different reason. You pick and choose. It's competition. They don't have that on iOS. It's only the App Store. You are being fucking strangled like Bart Simpson to use the App Store if you want apps on your iOS device legally. If Epic Games does somehow pull this off where they can actually open that up to having other platforms for apps on the iOS device, that would genuinely be fucking massive. The reason I'm even talking about this is just because I find it extremely entertaining that Epic Games is playing this like a YouTuber. Like, they basically just released a diss track on Apple by using this commercial parody, comparing them to like 1984 and shit like that. I think that's wonderful. They clearly had all of this prepped and ready. They sued the same day. They dropped this the same day. This was all very calculated, and I fucking love that. I think that's actually really entertaining, and I truly hope Epic Games doubles down on these attacks on Apple. I want them to introduce a Fortnite event where you have to dig up Steve Jobs' corpse and it gives you special loot in the game. I want them to have like a Travis Scott concert, but instead of like Travis Scott performing, they have some of Apple's unpaid workers going over how terrible it was to work for Apple. I want them to like change the Fortnite game map, you know, remove Tilted Towers and replace it with one of Apple's sweatshops. I want them to just go hard in here, because that shit, I think they're already off to a great start. They may as well just go all in, balls deep in this shit. I really think that'd be incredible. You could have like a John Wick versus Tim Cook Fortnite event or something where you can spawn in as Tim Cook instead of Thanos. I mean, just the possibilities are endless. I'm excited to see what Epic Games does with all of this. If they keep doing this kind of like 1984 parody shit they're doing against Apple, I'm excited to see where it goes. I really don't think Epic Games is going to win in this case. I really don't see that happening, but I'm just going to check it out from the sidelines, get the popcorn, stuff my face occasionally. It's not the most interesting story in the world, but at least it's something kind of unique and different. As for why the Google Play Store isn't a big deal, I see a lot of people saying, well, why is it only the App Store that's an issue? The reason why no one really gives too much of a fuck about getting banned from the Google Play Store is because that's for Android devices. There's a million ways you can get things on the Android device officially, as opposed to just using the actual Google Play Store. It's very open. You have plenty of options for getting apps on there besides just the Google Play Store. But for iOS, the only option you have, the only legitimate option you have, is going through their App Store. That's the only way, the only verified official way of getting apps onto an iOS device is through their App Store. So getting banned from there basically means you can't have your app on an iOS device anymore, unless you like jailbreak or some other methods, but no one can really do that since it's not official and verified. So getting banned from there is getting banned from iOS devices. Getting banned from Google Play is just like getting banned from your local library. You can go to a different one and still get the shit. There's plenty of other ways Fortnite can still be on Android, but that can't happen on iOS. But yeah, anyway, that's about it. Could this be the end of Fortnite? I mean, only time will tell. That's about it. See ya. Recently, we had a nice little circle jerk talking about Blockbuster, going over everything that made it great, why we loved it, and also everything that led to it eating such fat shit in the end. And I thought, well, if we're talking about dead businesses, we might as well talk about the most recent and modern example, Tumblr. Blockbuster died with its boots on, whereas Tumblr died with its condom on. Blockbuster went out with a sad whimper and a pathetic puff of a wet fart, whereas Tumblr literally shit itself out of existence. Blockbuster couldn't adapt to change, and Tumblr forced change, which ended up killing it. Or, I'm gonna say killing it loosely because it's not exactly completely dead. I'll get into that in a little bit. But why are we talking about Tumblr and putting it in the same league as Blockbuster? Well, it's because this week it was revealed Tumblr was sold for less than $3 million to WordPress when it was bought by Verizon in 2013 for $1.1 billion. That's a pretty fucking significant difference and a huge loss that they're just biting the ass on. So let's go over the entire history of Tumblr and how it got to this point. So Tumblr was founded in 2007 by David Karp, the primary purpose of the website being blogging. It wanted to be the best blogging site it could be, and during this time period, blogging was the shit. Everyone was doing it. Every middle-aged soccer mom on the planet had her own blog. 2 kids, red wine, just fine. A blog adventure by Sandy. And I'm not just saying it was only for boomers, the older generation blogging. During this time period, everyone was. Kids, teens, tweens, adults. Everyone had their own blog to put out their uniqueness, talk about their day. And David Karp envisioned a world where all of that would be on Tumblr. And to a certain extent, he was right. Tumblr became the hub for most blogs. And Tumblr had a very unique advantage over pretty much every other website in existence. It was extremely anonymous if you wanted it to be, which is by far the biggest contributing factor to the website's success. By being anonymous, people felt much more confident posting on it than they did Facebook, because on Facebook it's attached to them directly, and their real-life friends and family see it most likely, so people don't want to post their deep, dark secrets and fantasies on there, whereas Tumblr being anonymous is much more appealing to something like that, to get it all out and put it all out there for people to see without having to feel worried about someone judging them or being a real-life consequence for what they put out there. And also on Tumblr, there really wasn't a whole lot of ways for people to interact with each other directly. Commenting wasn't exactly a huge thing. The main way you'd interact with a post is through reblogging it yourself. So people would really only see the positive things where people are reblogging their stuff. The more they share, the more reblogs among the same people, then you have an entire community form around it. And there was a community for pretty much fucking everything on the planet. If you had a fetish for the Ninja Turtles fighting crime while wearing diapers, there was a Tumblr crowd for it. If you wanted to read and write poems about the extreme dinosaurs fighting the Ninja Turtles in dirty diapers, there was definitely content for that as well, whole communities. The point being, on Tumblr, there was a community for everyone, and every community was welcomed, which was both a great thing and a curse, like having a dick that's too big, where you can't get laid because it's too scary, but also having the prestige of having a massive dick. It's a double-edged sword. By welcoming all of these communities, it eventually led to Tumblr falling into hot water and eventually leading to where it is today. Not exactly dead, but not exactly... Yeah, it's dead. No, yeah, pretty much leading to its death. But anyway, within the first 2 weeks of Tumblr's launch, they had 75,000 signups. It hit the ground running, and it wasn't long after that it established itself as the biggest player in the blogging space, as well as really just kind of fan art in general. By 2012, it was beating Instagram and Pinterest in monthly viewers, And in 2013, it was bought by Verizon for $1.1 billion, but they kept David Karp on board to keep things running smoothly, which it did. For the most part on Tumblr for the users, it was business as usual. There wasn't any radical changes under the new ownership of Verizon. However, the identity of Tumblr was slowly changing. Whereas before it was more focused on blogging, now the tone was shifting where it was mainly focused on adult content. Porn, fanfic with massive cock and balls, a lot of niche porn communities and fetishists used it. It was basically home to pretty much anything adult-oriented, and that was massive for it, leading to 640 million monthly visits by July of 2018. It only continued to grow over this tone shift. However, this was pretty detrimental to Tumblr as an advertiser, because no one wants to advertise, fucking Ford right next to Batman bending over a rhinoceros with a veiny cock as comes pouring out of the rhino's mouth. So most advertisers were hesitant to advertise on Tumblr with all of this adult content because, in general, on the internet, most advertisers aren't gung-ho about it. I'm sure a lot of you watch YouTubers, and a lot of them talk about demonetization if you say fuck too many times, or if you put out a combo of words like fuck ass or ass fuck. Sometimes that'll even be enough to scare advertisers off. Tumblr had that times 100 million. It was very hard for them to find advertisers after their initial Adidas deal in 2012. They struggled very hard in that department, and in 2017 is when things really did start to change a little bit for Tumblr. In 2017, David Karp leaves, and by 2018, they start to notice things are a little bit wrong with the site. There's some very degenerate communities on there, and then in November of 2018, the final nail in the coffin strikes where it's removed from the App Store because child pornography now has a home on Tumblr, and that was a huge issue for obvious reasons. And then, the story in December 2018, December 17th, they outright ban porn and overly adult content nudity. That's really when Tumblr died. That's the day the fat lady not only sung, but shit her pants for Tumblr. That was pretty much the end of an era. Up until this point, everyone, myself included, and if you say you didn't use Tumblr for porn, I know you're lying to me, everyone was using it to find good porn, or even just look at the GIFs, and that was enough. It was the go-to for any type of fetish, anything. It always had all of the adult content, and that's what its identity really became. So when you took that away, you had to know it wasn't going to bode well for the site, and only days after the announcement, its users dropped by 30%. And nowadays, most people don't even talk about Tumblr outside of Tumblr unless they're pissing on its grave. But the interesting thing is, Tumblr's not dead. Tumblr is still getting, as of August 2019, 380 million monthly visits. So I have to wonder, why the fuck did it sell for less than $3 million with that kind of power? That's still a massive site. And also, who's still using it? Because, like I said, it's not really talked to outside of its own website. Most of the people that were power Tumblr users, huge blog masters, guru gamer assassin Tumblrs, have moved to other sites, Twitter, DeviantArt. They take their talents elsewhere. There's really no one left on Tumblr, so how? How is it still so massive? And I've looked for the last couple hours, and I really can't find where it's coming from. I have to wonder if it's like a giant fucking conspiracy or something from David Karp, like he set up a fucking Bitcoin mining farm, but for mining views on Tumblr. So I have to wonder, what fucking idiot made this deal for Verizon if Tumblr is still pulling these kind of numbers to sell for $3 million? It makes no sense, unless there's more going on under the hood, or maybe if it's just as simple as the executive was, coming into work after a fat key bump of coke and injecting meth directly into his penis veins, and he just, stumbles in, Tumblr, I'll give it to you for $3 million and you kiss my wife on the lips. Deal? I just don't get it. Maybe it was a huge accident like in Rocko's Modern Life where Big Head accidentally bankrupts the entire company. I just don't understand why they would sell it for so low if these numbers are accurate, which multiple sites say they are. It's fucking wild to me. So it's not exactly dead if you're going by just pure volume. There's still clearly a lot of clicks coming through on Tumblr, but outside of its own website, it really doesn't seem to have the same impact that it used to. whereas people were always linking to Tumblr shit, talking about it, and using it, mainly for porn, almost exclusively for porn towards the later span of its life. And there's nothing wrong with that. Bring back porn on Tumblr, and you'll probably revive Tumblr if I had to guess. But under WordPress, I don't think that's going to be the case. But anyway, that's the history of Tumblr and the death of Tumblr. Though it's not exactly a death because it's still super popular. It's kind of like in Hey Arnold with a Dino Spumoni faking his own death. It's kind of what Verizon's done to Tumblr. Ha, we only pretended to kill it. It's still popular, just not as popular. Which was surprising, man. I really can't express how shocked I was by the numbers it's pulling after the huge blow it took to getting rid of adult content. But anyway, that's it. That's the story of Tumblr. So yeah. This will serve as mainly a PSA to all of you out there that keep using Glassdoor reviews as a reliable source of information. Stop. Just fucking stop. Glassdoor, more like ass door, because like all doors for asses, there's a lot of shit behind this door. So for those of you who don't know, Glassdoor reviews are supposed to be from former employees, current employees, or really just anyone who ever had contact with a company, someone who went in there and fucking cleaned up toenail clippings every Tuesday on the bathroom floor. They go on here and they rate the company and share their experience with the company. And it's supposed to just give this insight into how the company functions and what's going on in there. So that way, potential employees or anyone interested can look at this and decide whether or not they really want to work for a company like this. But problem is, Glassdoor has no authentication process. They don't verify if the people leaving the reviews are actually former employees, current employees, or anyone who even knows about the company. Porn sites are more reliable with ensuring that only people of legal porn viewing age are on their site, and all you have to do is click a button saying, yeah, I'm of legal age. So Jackson made an account on Glassdoor, and he signed up to be the former CEO of Bungie, which he was 100% allowed to do, and he left this review right here. It's a clearly bullshit review. Anyone would read that and be like, yeah, that doesn't seem real to me. Except Glassdoor has left it up on their website for 8 days. And according to them, they have some top secret Krabby Patty secret formula measures to avoid fraudulent reviews making it onto their site, but clearly that's just bullshit here. I assumed Glassdoor would either A, not allow Jackson to do this, or B, take it down once they could clearly see it's bullshit, but neither of those happened. So Jackson's process consisted of just signing up, saying who he worked for, what his position was, and then to authenticate that he was telling the truth, they sent him an email, and it was a link that he clicked saying, yep, I really am this. And then kablammy, Jackson is now registered as the former CEO of Bungie on Glassdoor.com. It's just fucking ridiculous. It's like sending a reply to a Nigerian prince scam email. Are you really a Nigerian prince? Click here if so. Click. Oh, I guess he is a Nigerian prince. That's how Glassdoor authenticates who's leaving these reviews. It's bullshit. So please, all of these articles that I'm reading these days about companies and shit, and they're using Glassdoor reviews as an indicator of what it's like to work there and what's going wrong. It seems Google has a massive in-office bestiality problem that they're dealing with according to the Glassdoor reviews, and it seems every Wednesday they have a Bring Your Dildo to Work day. Unbelievable stuff, thanks Glassdoor reviews. So please, honestly, stop using Glassdoor reviews as a reliable source. That's really just what I want to say. And that's it. See ya.